All right, so we're diving into New Zealand today.
Sounds good to me.
Got some data about employment and wages. A dashboard, actually,
Huh.
put together by Dorian Wang and Zoe Yao,
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
using some pretty up-to-date government data, too. November 6th is the latest, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They've really covered all the bases, got everything in there. Average weekly earnings by industry, hourly trends. They even break it down by gender.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, and then you can see how employment changes across different regions, different age groups, too.
It's amazing how much they managed to pack into one dashboard.
Really is. Just skimming through it, even before we really got into it, I noticed some pretty interesting things.
Oh.
Yeah, like, just how much weekly earnings can differ between different industries.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Some big differences.
Finance and insurance are right up there at the top, bringing home the big bucks.
Makes sense?
Then you've got accommodation and food services. Not quite as lucrative, it seems.
Not even close.
Sure, there are lots of reasons for that, right?
Right. A lot of factors at play. It's not about one industry being better than another or anything like that.
Right.
It's more about, well, the skills you need for those jobs
Mm-hmm.
and the education. For example, with finance, you often need pretty specialized knowledge.
Okay.
Higher level of education too, often,
Mm.
compared to food service, for instance.
So basically you're saying those specialized skills, they come with a higher price tag.
Yeah, exactly. If you've got in-demand skills, businesses, they'll pay a premium to get you on board.
Makes sense.
And the great thing about this dashboard, it's not just a snapshot. You can see how earnings have evolved over time, from 2021 to Q3 2024.
Oh, so you can actually see the trends.
Yeah, you can use the filters, see which industries are seeing those crazy fast wage increases.
So I was playing around with it a bit earlier. It seems like the tech sector has been doing pretty well.
Really?
Yeah, some serious gains there.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. All the talk about New Zealand's tech boom, right?
Yeah, this must be a classic case of supply and demand then.
Yeah, I think so. Demand for tech skills goes up. Wages follow. What I really love about this dashboard, though,
What's that?
you can directly compare any industry to the overall average. Thinking about a career change, maybe.
Mm.
You can instantly see if construction, for example, consistently pays above or below average, and how it changes over time.
That is pretty handy, actually. So we've talked about the big earners, but one thing that really stood out to me, and not in a good way, was the data on the gender wage gap.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Pretty disheartening to see that men are still earning significantly more in most industries.
It's a stubborn problem.
It is.
So-
Yeah, this dashboard really doesn't sugarcoat it.
No, it doesn't. And they use this specific metric, right?
Yeah.
Percentage difference in average hourly earnings.
Okay.
It tells us how much more men earn, on average, compared to women, for each hour of work.
Okay.
And the difference is shocking in some sectors.
It really is. And in finance and insurance,
Yeah.
men are earning over 30% more.
That's crazy.
And even in healthcare and social assistance, it's 2024. Shouldn't we have moved past this by now?
I wish.
So what's the deal? Why is this gap so stubborn? What's causing it?
Well, there are a few factors, I think, like occupational segregation, for one.
Okay, remind me what that is again?
So basically, certain industries or roles are dominated by one gender.
Okay,
Think nursing, for example,
Yeah.
or construction.
got it.
That impacts earning potential from the start.
Right, so if more women are in lower paying fields, that's going to skew the overall average.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of bias in hiring and promotions. Conscious and unconscious bias.
That's a tough one to tackle.
It is. And it can hold women back from those higher paying positions.
I know there's been a lot of talk about women needing to be more assertive when negotiating salaries, too.
Yeah, research shows that women tend to be less assertive in those situations. Might be a factor.
Well, at least we can track these differences with this dashboard, right? See if things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, that's the good thing about data. It can help us monitor progress and hold people accountable.
Hopefully that gap will start to shrink.
Fingers crossed.
So we've looked at earnings by industry, and we've talked about that gender wage gap.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture, the overall employment trends. What's the dashboard telling us?
Well, from what I can see, New Zealand's job market is pretty dynamic. Lots going on, industries rising and falling, and where those jobs are located is shifting too.
Right. Let's start with the visualization that shows the number of filled jobs by industry. Some industries are massive.
Yeah, like professional, scientific, and technical services.
That's a big one.
Yeah, New Zealand's pushing towards a knowledge-based economy, so that makes sense.
And then there are those industries with fewer filled jobs, like agriculture and mining.
Yeah, they're still important, but they reflect those changes in technology, right? And consumer demand.
I was also checking out this interactive map. Shows employment numbers by region.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
It's amazing how it all varies. Auckland seems like a real hub, buzzing with activity.
Right. Certain industries really cluster there. That's going to attract workers.
Wellington's got its own thing going on. More government and public sector jobs.
Mm.
And then we've got these cool quarterly comparisons. We can see which industries are actually growing and which ones are shrinking.
That's so useful, like having a finger on the pulse of the economy, seeing what's booming, what's struggling.
Okay, let's look at how things break down by age. Young adults between 20 and 34 and those aged 35 to 54 have the highest employment numbers.
Right. The visualization shows that pretty clearly. Makes sense, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's like the typical workforce life cycle, right?
Mm-hmm. Young adults are finishing their education, entering the workforce. Those middle-age groups, they're often at the peak of their careers.
This data also has implications for stuff like retirement planning.
Right. These age groups are driving the economy, supporting our social systems.
So what happens as people approach retirement age? Do they work longer? Earlier retirement trends?
Well, that's where this dashboard really shines. We can track those changes, see if there are any patterns.
Like whether people are choosing to work longer or not.
Yeah, maybe for financial reasons. Or maybe they just love their work.
Or maybe there's a trend towards earlier retirement because of policy changes. Or maybe people just want more leisure time. I'm really starting to appreciate all the things you can learn from this dashboard.
Yeah.
About the different experiences of various groups, how it all connects.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not just about the big picture, it's about those nuances.
It is. It's like piecing together a puzzle, seeing how all those individual pieces come together to create the whole picture.
Well, we've covered a lot already. Earnings, the gender wage gap, those big employment trends, and we're just getting started. We'll dig deeper into some of these trends after a quick break, especially how things vary across those different regions. Lots more to uncover.
This bar chart on page 8, it's kind of cool. It shows the changes in filled jobs from quarter to quarter. Some industries are booming, others are, well, not so much. Really shows how dynamic the job market is.
I know, right? It's like a race between the green bars showing increases and the red bars for decreases.
Yeah, exactly.
And being able to filter by specific quarters, that's a game changer. You can pinpoint when those big shifts happened, try to connect it back to what was going on in the economy.
Exactly. Let's say you're looking at construction. You might see a big jump in filled jobs one quarter. Maybe the government launched some big infrastructure projects.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe there was a boom in residential building. Then you look at retail. Maybe they took a hit because the economy slowed down.
Yeah.
Or online shopping became even more popular.
It's like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how those bigger things affect individual industries.
I like that. Behind the scenes. It's a good way to put it.
And here's what I find really cool. If you hover over a specific bar, you can see how those changes break down by region.
Really?
Yeah, so even if an industry is growing nationally, it might be concentrated in certain areas, while other regions might actually be seeing a decline.
Oh, wow. That is interesting. So national trends don't always tell the whole story.
Exactly. It's like maybe the tech sector is going crazy in Auckland, tons of new jobs.
Right.
But then the agricultural sector is having a rough time in Canterbury.
Makes sense.
It just shows you can't make assumptions about the job market based on those national averages. You got to drill down, see what's happening in specific regions.
Yeah, that granular detail, it's gold.
Especially for people making career decisions or thinking about investments.
For sure.
Even policymakers need that local perspective to
Yeah.
know where to focus their efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about understanding those local dynamics.
Yeah.
Recognizing that the job market, it's not one size fits all.
Let's talk about young adults for a minute.
Okay?
They often face unique challenges in the job market. Page 9 of the dashboard focuses on employment trends for those aged 15 to 24.
Right.
What are some key observations for this age group?
Well, one thing you see right away is a number of filled jobs for this group. It's much lower compared to the older groups we talked about earlier. You see it in Auckland, Wellington, Canterbury, across all the regions, actually. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. Many young adults are still in school or training programs.
Yeah, they're building up their skills, getting ready for their careers.
Exactly.
But we shouldn't assume that just because they're not in full-time jobs, they're not working at all.
No, not at all.
Lots of young people are juggling part-time gigs, internships, casual jobs, while they study or gain experience.
That's true. The data here focuses on filled jobs.
Yeah.
It It doesn't capture everything, how young adults are engaging with the workforce. Those diverse experiences, they're valuable too.
Absolutely. Internships, apprenticeships, even part-time jobs in retail or hospitality.
Right.
They teach you valuable skills. You make connections, get a taste of what it's like to be part of a team, contribute to a business.
Like stepping stones.
Exactly. They're stepping stones to bigger and better things.
This dashboard also allows us to see how those employment numbers for young adults have changed over time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you can adjust the time slider, see how the average number of filled jobs for 15 to 24-year-olds has gone up or down.
So we can see if there have been any major shifts. Are more young people finding jobs now compared to a few years ago?
Exactly. Sometimes the changes are tied to the economy. Strong growth, more job opportunities for everyone, including young people.
Right.
But then a recession hits, those entry-level jobs, they're often the first to go.
That makes sense.
We also have to think about changes in education. Are more young people staying in school longer? Are there new programs helping them transition into work?
It's all connected. It's fascinating to see how these factors weave together and not just understanding the past, right?
Yeah.
By tracking these trends, we can kind of anticipate what the future might hold for those young people entering the job market.
It's all about having that foresight and being prepared.
Okay, so we've talked about earnings, the gender wage gap, and those overall employment trends. But what about those regional differences we were discussing? The interactive map on page 7 is calling my name.
Oh, the map. It's really something. It shows you how employment opportunities vary across New Zealand.
I know, right?
You can click on a region, Auckland, Wellington, Canterbury. See which industries are driving job creation in each area.
It's like a treasure map for job seekers.
That's a great way to put it.
And it's not just about seeing which industries are dominant, it's about understanding how they've evolved over time. This dashboard lets us track those changes.
Right, so we can see which areas are experiencing the most dynamic growth.
Exactly. Like, let's say you're looking at Auckland. You might see that the technology sector has just exploded in recent years. Massive increase in filled jobs.
Yeah, could be because of a supportive business environment, concentration of tech talent, maybe government initiatives promoting innovation.
It's like each region has its own unique personality when it comes to employment.
I like that.
This kind of information is so valuable for people thinking about moving for work, businesses looking to expand.
Absolutely. It's like a guidebook to New Zealand's different economic landscapes.
And it's not just about individual decisions, it's about policy too. Policymakers can use this data to identify regions that are lagging behind, maybe target investments, incentives, stimulate economic activity.
Yeah, like a roadmap for regional development.
And when you hover over a region on the map, these quarterly charts pop up.
Oh, yeah, I saw one.
Really detailed view of how employment has fluctuated within each year.
It's amazing how much detail they've included.
I know, like looking at the fine print.
Sometimes those small details reveal interesting patterns, too.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, industries that are heavily influenced by seasons.
Okay.
Tourism, agriculture, retail. They might show big swings in filled jobs depending on the time of year.
Makes sense.
Like you might see a spike in tourism jobs during the summer, then a dip in the off-season.
That's crucial information for businesses in those industries.
Yeah, they need to adjust their workforce based on demand. Make sure they have enough employees throughout the year.
So it's all about being adaptable.
Exactly. A flexible workforce is key when demand fluctuates so much.
This interactive map and these detailed charts, they really show us the employment patterns across New Zealand.
They do. It's not just about those big trends. It's about understanding all those little nuances.
They can make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've been given this powerful lens to examine the job market from every angle.
We've covered a lot, but there's one more thing I want to touch on, the gender wage gap. The dashboard shows that it's still very much there, but it also lets us track how things have changed over time. Have we seen any encouraging signs? Has that gap narrowed at all?
That's the big question, right? And the good news is the dashboard lets us explore it. We can use the filters to focus on specific industries, time periods, see if there's been any progress.
I'm hoping we see that in some sectors, like tech or healthcare, the gap has started to shrink, even just a little bit. It would be a sign that those efforts to promote gender equality are working.
It would. Even small changes can be positive. It means things are moving in the right direction.
But even though this dashboard is amazing, so much information.
Yeah.
It's important to remember, data can't capture everything. It can't tell us the whole story of what it's like to be a worker in New Zealand, those real-life challenges.
You're right. It's a good point. Data is just one piece of the puzzle. It can show us trends, but we need to interpret that data within a broader context. Think about social norms, cultural values, individual circumstances.
So the data might show a decrease in the gender wage gap in one industry, but that doesn't mean every woman in that industry is experiencing equal pay or equal opportunities.
Absolutely not.
It's like the data gives us that bird's eye view,
Oh.
but we still need to zoom in and see the individual trees, the human stories behind those numbers.
That's a good way to think about it. Data is a powerful tool, but it's just that, a tool. We need to use it responsibly, ethically, with a critical eye, recognize its limitations.
And potential biases.
Exactly. We should always be asking, what are the individual journeys, the challenges, the triumphs that contribute to these trends? How can we use these insights to create a better workplace for everyone?
Powerful questions. They remind us that this conversation goes beyond just numbers and charts.
For sure.
It's about creating a better future for all New Zealanders.
Absolutely. It's about using data to inform our actions and to create positive change.
This deep dive into New Zealand's employment trends has been really eye-opening so far. We've covered a lot, but there's still more to explore. We'll wrap up our conversation and leave you with some final food for thought after a quick break. Stay tuned. We're back. Been having a great time digging into this New Zealand employment dashboard. Really got me thinking.
Me too. Earnings, the gender wage gap, all those trends. It's like we took a deep dive into the heart of the job market.
And you know what's great? This dashboard isn't just a static thing. It's interactive. You listening, you can explore it based on your own interests.
Totally. Looking for new job opportunities, trying to figure out where the talent's going.
Even if you're like crafting workforce development strategies, this dashboard is a gold mine.
Definitely a gold mine.
Okay, as we wrap things up, let's leave you with something to ponder. We've talked a lot about what's hot right now, but what about the future of work itself? What's on the horizon?
Oh, the million-dollar question. There's a bit of a whirlwind out there.
Technology's changing everything.
Automation's on the rise. The world's more connected than ever. Exciting times, but definitely some challenges too.
Like automation, robots, AI. They're taking over more and more tasks that humans used to do.
That's true.
Some jobs are going to disappear, that's inevitable. But at the same time, it's creating new opportunities in other areas.
Data analytics, AI development, cybersecurity.
So the key takeaway is adaptability, right? Workers need to be constantly learning, upskilling, reskilling.
Yeah, if you want to stay relevant in this ever-changing world, you got to keep learning.
And it's not just those hard skills.
No, not at all.
Employers want those soft skills too. Communication, problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration.
Being able to work in teams, adapt to change, think creatively, that's going to be so important.
Absolutely. The future of work is all about being agile, resourceful, and being able to connect with others. It's less about what you know right now and more about how you learn, how you adapt, how you grow.
Well said.
This dashboard, it's almost like a crystal ball, isn't it? Showing us current trends, tracking those changes, gives us a peek into what's coming next.
It does. Helps us prepare for the future.
Well, it's been a pleasure diving into this dashboard with you, uncovered some amazing insights.
Likewise. A really fascinating deep dive.
And to you listening, we encourage you to explore this dashboard yourself. Ask your own questions. The world of work is always changing, but with tools like this, we can stay informed, stay adaptable, and embrace whatever's coming next. Thanks for joining us.